The Progressive Era, which included political reform across the U.S., problems caused by industrialization, urbanization, immigration, and political problems. It also included widespread social activism. The Environment by Anna, Michael, and Jessica. Theodore Roosevelt was an American statesman, politician, conservationist, naturalist, and a writer who served as the 26th President of the United States. The Sierra Club was an environmental organization created in 1892 in the United States. National Park Service is an agency that managed all national parks, many monuments, and conservation. Theodore Roosevelt, born on January 30th, 1882, is often known as FDR. He was an American statesman and political leader who served as the 36th president until he died on April 2nd, 1945. He became a central figure in the world, along with breaking a record for presidential elections. Theodore Roosevelt, the youngest man at the time to enter the White House at age 42, had a lot of work to do and people to satisfy. President McKinley succeeded in ignoring the obvious public opinion but was later assassinated. Roosevelt had broad democratic beliefs and was the first president ever to have intimate knowledge of everyday problems, thanks to his past experience as police commissioner and governor in New York. President Theodore Roosevelt had to slowly work his title and his position to the top because of the control that our conservatives had in Congress. This did not take long, though. He became the obvious leader after winning the election of 1904, and in 1906, he was the spokesman of national progressivism. Roosevelt's goal was to take down these big companies so that everyday men and women could have jobs, and the power of the country did not rest in one person's hand. The Sierra Club. The Sierra Club was an environmental organization created in 1892 by a group of Californians that wanted to promote environmental conservation. John Muir was the first president from 1892 to 1914. Among its first successes was the defeat of efforts to constrict the size of Yosemite National Park, which was transformed from state to federal control. After the club built park buildings and trails, it supported the establishment of the National Park Service and the California State Park Commission. The National Park System. The National Park Service, agency of the U.S. Department of the Interior that manages and maintains several hundred national parks, monuments, historical sites, and other designated properties of the federal government. It was established in 1916 by an act of the U.S. Congress that was signed into law by U.S. President Woodrow Wilson. The law stipulated that the new service was to conserve the scenery and the natural and historic objects and the wildlife therein, and to leave them unimpaired for the enjoyment of future generations. John Muir was an influential Scottish-American naturalist, author, environmental philosopher, glaciologist, and an advocate for the preservation of wilderness in the United States. Gifford Pinnock was an American forester and politician. John Muir was a big advocate of the U.S. forest conservation. He was responsible for the Sequoia National Park and Yosemite National Park, both located in California. Muir urged the federal government to adopt a forest conservation policy, making him a central figure in the debate over land use. He would spread the word on land preservation through articles. Muir agreed with Gifford Pinnock's ideas of forest protection, but very quickly their views differed. Pinnock supported the sustainable use of resources within national forests. Muir believed that national parks and forests should be preserved in their entirety, meaning that their resources should be rendered off limits to industrial interests. On May 28, 1892, Muir founded the Sierra Club, an organization devoted to protecting the environment. In 1908, the government established Muir Woods National Monument in Marin County, California. And in 1964, it was designated his home in Martinez, California, as a National Historic Site. Muir's work was also influential in the establishment of Mount Rainier National Park, 1899, in Washington State, and Grand Canyon National Park, 1919, in Arizona. His conviction that wilderness areas should be federally protected as national parks has given generations of U.S. citizens an opportunity to appreciate Americans' landscapes as they exist naturally in the absence of human industrial influence. Guilford Pinnock was a pioneer of U.S. forestry, conservation, and public official. His first work began in the U.S. at Biltmore Estate of George W. Vanderbilt. In 1896, Pinnock was a member of the National Forest Commission of the National Academy of Sciences. Him becoming a member of these worked out the plan of U.S. forest reserves. In 1897, he became confidential forest agent to the Secretary of Interior. In 1898, he became chief in later Bureau of Division of Forestry and the Forest Service. During his time, the entire Forest Service system and administrative machinery were built up, and Pinnock's enthusiasm and promotional work did much for the conservation movement in general. He served as a member of the Public Lands Commission, which he initiated in 1903. He also initiated the Inland Waterways Commission in 1908. In 1908, he became a chairman of the National Conservation Commission. He founded the Yale School of Forestry at New Haven, Conn, as well as the Yale Summer School of Forestry at Milford, Pennsylvania, and in 1903 became a professor of forestry at Yale. John Muir, Guilford Pinnock, Theodore Roosevelt, the Sierra Club and National Park System.